This week's coffee is going to be Kenya Mukui. What the heck. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 155. I am your host Stephen Layton, and as I said, this week's going to be all about Kenya Mukui. Feels better. I've had that bottled up inside for a while. If those who don't know, that's the old way I used to introduce these, and lots of people didn't like it, but I'm sorry, it makes me smile inside, so I am going to stick that back in, I think. I like that opening. So anyway, let's talk about the coffee. So the name of the coffee is Mukui, and it comes from a wet mill that is associated to Ruthaka, which is a farmers co-op society that's got quite a few wet mills. I'm trying to think, so there's like Nadamu, Mathambi, Makayu, Kiambitu, Karamba. And this society's been together for quite a while, but they've really been working on their quality of late, trying to improve what they're doing. And they've become part of like a giant society, which is 28 wet mills that have all pulled together and kind of work in strength, but also work in their much smaller 7 wet mill society. So it's in the Nyeri, that's it, district of Kenya. Comes from an altitude of around about 1400 to 1550 metres, so not super high, certainly not the highest grown Kenyas, and has a mixture of varietals in there, SL28, SL34 and Ryu 11, grown in some great soil, looked after, produced this. The varietal thing is fairly typical for Kenya. SL28 is a varietal that was developed for Kenya from the Scottish Labs guys. A little bit of a colonial influence there, I think, and it's super closely related to Bourbon. It's just like a substrain from Bourbon. Generally produces an amazing cup. Vast generalisation, brush out again, but it's always a variety I look forward to trying to, and I look forward to seeing on the cupping table. And if you go anywhere in Central South America, they all say they've got SL28 plants. They haven't. But then the other varietal, SL24, is a little bit more yielding, a little bit more varied in its cupping results, not quite as exciting as 28. And Ryu 11, I'm trying to find out more about, but chats with people online, kind of, and phone calls and stuff. I think it's some kind of derivative from a Timor Robusta experiment, and not particularly something you would like to drink on its own. But what I think a varietal like this brings along to a coffee like this is it makes it the sum of its parts, so it becomes more enjoyable and makes it the cup that it is. So we shouldn't just discount these varietals that we think are not quite as cool or not quite as exciting as things like SL28 and Bourbon and Caturra and Typica and all of those. So anyway, let's get some numbers. Well, it's a wet mill which is called Kenya Mukui. It's a AA bean size, and that's just saying what the bean size is. The varietal is 28, SL28, SL34 and some Ryu 11, as I've already said. The processing on this is fully washed, so it is submerged in water and left to ferment for an amount of time. Don't know how long that was, but an amount of time. The owners of the wet mill are the Ruthaka Farmers Co-op. As I said earlier, the altitude is between 1400 and 1500 metres. And the nearest city to the place is Mukui, which is a fairly large city conurbation, which is in the Nyeri district of Kenya, which tends to produce a lot of amazing coffees. This is one of a few that I've tasted from Nyeri, which really makes Kenya kind of stand out. There have been some absolutely stunning coffees from this place. So anyway, time to get a snozzer in the bowl. It's not phallic. it's not. I'm going to have to get this changed, I think. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and look at the comments on last week's In My Mug, and there's quite a few comments about it. So, in the smell, what you get mainly, like the big part, is you can smell that there's like, it smells like licorice. And I know that this coffee tastes like a little bit licorice, but it smells like licorice too. You can smell that kind of sweet but tarry, kind of sticky aromas coming off it. I think that, well, I know that this is going to be an amazing coffee, and I'm really looking forward to trying it. I really, really am. But before we do, we have to bring out the Wheel of Death, which apparently this looked terrible compared to the snozzer in the bowl thing, so we're going to go. And this week's is going to be macchiato. Macchiato is, it basically just means marked or stained espresso, so you've marked it with milk. It's an Italian drink, traditionally made with 1 shot of espresso and a very, very tiny amount of milk just on top, as I say, as a mark, macchiato. I love these coffees. I love this as a drink because I'm not a massive milk fan. Milk for me, I find very heavy, and it doesn't always sit massively easy. And I may not finish it because of so much milk. But I do like what milk can do to bring sweetness, and can kind of make the perfect compromise between a cappuccino and an espresso. Sometimes an espresso is too much, and this just takes the little edge off it, and makes it a little bit more enjoyable. So yeah, we're gonna try it as a macchiato. So I think it's about time. Oh, actually, before I do that, I said about them being random, and this one was chosen this week by Has Been New Boy off Twitter, at Has Been New Boy, to ensure the randomness of it. They are completely random. Do expect other ones to be coming up soon. So I think it's time to taste the coffee anyway. So here goes the espresso first, and as a rule, I do not like Kenyans as espresso, so this is something that I would not normally do to a Kenyan, but... So you smell a bit of zing. You can smell almost like a creaminess that's coming off it, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, when I cupped all these, I was cupping them in colours, and this really reminded me of blacks and purples. Sounds a bit weird, I know, but basically I get a really strong licorice, like a licorice pipe with the blue hundreds and thousands on the end. I mean, it's exactly in this espresso like a licorice pipe, like so much so. You get a little bit of black currant going on in there. It's a little bit kind of in the background, but you definitely do. It's actually not a bad espresso. I never thought I'd actually say that about a Kenyan, and I was expecting the worst. I haven't tried it as an espresso before, but the licorice pipe is massive on it, absolutely massive. So I've got to dive into the macchiato now. So little tips with the macchiato: keep the espresso tight, fairly short, kind of a little bit shorter than you would the espresso, then just the tiniest bit of milk. And it does what milk does. It got that sweetness to it. It's got a little bit more rounded. It takes the edge off it, but you still get that licorice really kind of running through there. I actually quite like both of those. I'm gobsmacked. I'm going to go and make the team some espressos now with them, because I think that they'll love them too. So, a couple of things to say before I wrap up. Firstly, thank you for all the comments on in my mug site. Go along and have a look. It's been brilliant. There's been loads of people commenting recently, and I've been loving that. So thank you. Monday, spare a thought for me this Monday. I'm doing my first ever marathon. So those who follow me on Twitter have been following my exploits of fear about doing this run. That's coming up this weekend. So as this is out, I'll have be doing or have done the marathon. So yeah, and I'm also doing it on my birthday as well, which is a little bit crazy. Right, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me as always. Life is still too short for bad coffee.